Hey Carp Geeks, well you join me in my kitchen. It's third week of March and I'm just about to go fishing for the first time this year. Now something a little different. I'm going to be fishing with boilies this year. Some of you have seen me in the past. See, I know I like to fish with a bit of fake maize, but yeah, we've had some interesting reports back from some testers, and it turns out that standard old shelf life boilies, according to our tester, if soaked overnight in an impulse solution, are highly attractive. Honestly, I didn't think this would be the case, and proof is in the pudding. So I'm gonna knock up some of these boilies right now and test them tomorrow. So let's see what happens. All right, let's have a look at how we're gonna make these things up. First thing I'm gonna do, simply cover, and I've got 800 grams of boilies in each container here. I'm just gonna cover them in water. Okay, so that's the first easy step. All right, so here we go. Number one. Just about covered. And of course I'll do that also for the second one. Okay. All right, here we go. As you can see, they're just plain Jane pineapple 15mm boilies. Okay, just about covered. Reminds me somewhat of preparing pellets when fishing the method feeder, which is another video, right? Okay, so fair enough. Now this one on my right, your left, I'm going to actually add some impulse to it, okay, and also some flavor. Okay, so let's just get back to a front shot. Hang on. All right, first and most important thing, I'm going to label, obviously, one of these with an I for impulse, right? So that one, and I'll also put it on here so I don't forget. Okay. That one's going to be the one with the impulse. All right, so let's go ahead and prep that. Now, normally we do 30 mils per kilo for pellets. Now, pellets are more absorbent, so it's going to leak out faster. So I'm actually going to do double that, all right? So I'm going to do 60 milliliters. Now, in the US, we have fluid ounces, so half a fluid ounce is about 15 mil. So I'll do 4 of those, right? But if you're in the UK with a 10 mil doser, it's obviously going to be 6, all right? So here you go, 4 of these. 1. I'm just squeezing it to the line, pouring it in. 2, 3, 4. Okay, 4. Fair enough, right? So that's now, I think, the correct amount of impulse to soak overnight. We'll see tomorrow, of course. And I'm also going to add a little bit of kick. These are pineapple boilies. This is what I love to do with my sweet corn, actually. I love to add just a splash of just pineapple flavor. I'll do that to both just to make it even. Okay, so nice little splash, splash. Okay, there we are. So let's see how this goes tomorrow. Okay, see you on the bank. Hey Carp Geeks, hope you can hear me. I'm at Braidwood as promised, doing a Impulse 2.0 test with, as you can see, boilies. All right, okay. Got here this morning and it was rammed, more rammed as they say than a linear on a bank holiday. And the reason it's rammed bank fishing wise is because it's quite windy. There's a red flag warning. Everyone's fishing off the bank today. There's no boats on the water. So we slopped into the last available spot. We'll see what happens. So as we go, apologies for any wind noise you may hear. It's going to be a windy one today. All right. Okay, let's get to it. All right, so just got the bait sorted out. What I've done, and I'm going to start fishing shortly, is obviously the impulse dose boilies here. Interestingly, I put a few through the chopper slicer thing, and as you can possibly see there, if I can hold it up, the water's absorbed about halfway through. So boilies are somewhat absorbent if left overnight. And when I've got like a hole on here, yeah, they're firm, but they're not hard. Okay, so I'm actually pretty happy with that. And I put some through the crusher, put some through the chopper, so a mixture of chops and ground up, which I put in a little PVA bag, put on the hook, and I've put probably 30 yards out, not too far. The fish are topping out there. 30 yards out,
a couple of pouchfuls of boilies. No, I just feed regularly throughout the day, and we see how we go. Hopefully next time you see me I'll be holding a fish. Alright, so it's been about an hour and a half since I started, and I mentioned, jinxed it. My next picture would be me holding a fish, not as it turns out. So it's kind of unusual. Normally at this time of year we'd have caught a fish by now, but at this time of year normally I'll be fishing my normal soaked impulse pellets, and it's kind of making me think. When you think about it, boilies have a relatively low surface area, and I'm starting to think that pellets, which have a relatively high surface area, leak impulse much more quickly. And this is going to have me do some thinking when I get back, because obviously there's no fish on either rod, so either there's no fish there or they're just not biting today or they're just not stimulated. Okay, so it's not enough impulse coming out. So I'm thinking I might have to up the dose, okay, for boilies, and that's kind of made me think. So, not a wasted day at all. That's why it's, we call it experimenting, right? You don't get a good result every time, but you do learn from a null result. So null result today tells me that the boilies aren't working. Need a higher dose. Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, so here we are, and I'm just finishing putting together the footage you've just seen. I'm back in my loft, right, doing my editing. So in retrospect, yesterday was really interesting. I'll put a link. The last time we went to Braidwood, it was pretty clear that the fish were feeding at a similar time of year. I went on St. Patrick's Day, I think it's March 17th rather than like March 15th, so pretty much the same time of year. And caught a lot of fish, right? I think it was 5-1 impulse dose versus undosed nuclear carp, right? So I was expecting something similar, and obviously, you saw the video. I fished one rod with and one rod without impulse dose boilies, and at the time I had that sneaking suspicion that I wasn't getting to threshold, I wasn't getting enough impulse into the water. And upon further review, I think that's definitely true. And another compounding factor before I get into the math was that Braidwood has a massive flow. It's a nuclear cooling lake. It's got quite a decent flow, almost like a river at times. So there's a big washout factor. So what impulse gets in there washes out pretty quick. So I thought probably, and the numbers will support this in a second, that I didn't really get to threshold. Okay, you have to get to threshold concentration of impulse in your area. Now the $64,000 question is, why not? Okay, so when it comes down to amino acids releasing into the water, it's all about the surface area of the bait. Okay, now I'll show you a quick. I'll throw up a kind of a little picture up here. So imagine a Rubik's cube, right? And imagine the Rubik's cube has those 6 sides of a cube, and they're 3 centimeters by 3 centimeters on each side, right? And then you work that out. So 3 times 3 is 9, and there's 6 sides, and there's the math. 54 centimeters squared would be the surface area of the big Rubik's cube. Okay. Now imagine slicing the Rubik's cube twice, right? And so all those little kind of squares you see, individual cubes you see for the Rubik's cube. If you then look at those individually, well, they have a side of 1 by 1 centimeter in the 6 sides, so that's 6 centimeters squared surface area per cube, and then there's a bunch of them, and you get out to 162 centimeters squared for the surface area of all the smaller cubes combined. So you think about it like this. So the volume of the big Rubik's cube and the volume of all the little cubes together is identical, right? But the surface area of the little cubes, which is just arisen through just slicing and making more little cubes higher surface area. Okay, so you get like a 3-to-1. So by slicing up big things into small things, those smaller things have a much higher relative surface area. Now this pertains to impulse in a similar way. The smaller your pellet, the faster the impulse will come out because of the higher relative surface area. So the same volume of 2 mil pellets, for example, will put out impulse a lot quicker than the same volume of 15 millimeter boilies by a long way. And I did the numbers. All right. So when I check the numbers, what do we got? Well, if you're putting 30 mils of impulse on a kilo of 2 mil boilies, which is our dose, if you ramp that up to 4 mil, pellets, you need 63 mils. 6 mils, 102. And if you're going to do boilies, I did a 15mm boilie like the one I did. So remember, I did equivalent of 60 mils, right, in the kitchen right at the start of this video. Okay, I should have done 1,626 milliliters, over a liter. So it gets crazy. The surface area, the relative surface area of a boilie is tiny compared to the same absolute volume, of smaller pellets. Okay, so it's kind of insane. So it's kind of hard. So it really tells me that dipping and soaking is really difficult. I did actually get 2 bites after I stopped filming. I got 2 bites on the impulse rod, but it was way in the afternoon. One was a small catfish which came off, and one was a carp that snagged me up. So I'm not counting them as fish, but yeah, later on it did come on a little bit. But that was after a lot of bait went in after about 3 hours. Now our tester had a similar experience, so I'm not discounting what the tester did. I'm just thinking he has to wait a long time for it to leak out so much that it gets, it gets to the what we call threshold. Okay, so in the future, obviously, I'm not going to put 1.6 liters of impulse on a kilo of pellets. We have to devise a way of coating the pellets in, a concentrated solution, or perhaps some kind of crust or culture, and that's, I think, the answer for boilies. So watch this space. We're going to be doing some testing with a major manufacturer this year, and that manufacturer very on the ball and have already kind of realized, without me doing this math, they've already realized that a cultured bait is probably the way to go. So we're going to work on that with them this summer. Okay, so yeah, so for you boilie anglers, don't lose faith. In the meantime, just use smaller pellets, little PVA bag, little tea bag we call it, on the hook, and that gives you the attraction around your boilie pop up or bottom bait. So all is not lost. Just use a little PVA bag or boilie crumb. You can spray that as well. Check biosourcebaits.com for our free user guide, which shows you how to prepare all these things. So we're good for now, but we want that perfect boilie, don't we? And that's still in process. Okay, hope that all makes sense. See you guys next time.